Welcome back to Post-Traumatic Thriving. I am Dr. RandallBell, joined by Tanya Brown. Hey, Tanya.
Hey, everyone.
And we're here with Kathy Buckley. You ready to kick her out, or should we go for some more?
I'm ready to run out.
You know, the problem is that we take these breaks, and then Kathy, is like, starts talking some more. It's like, I want to get this recorded. This is great stuff.
It was, because I was insulting everyone.
For sure. Well, this is I'm really thrilled to be at this stage because we're talking about thriving. So to the extent you're not going to brag about yourself, Kathy, we're going to brag about you.
Well, then I don't need to be here.
Yeah, take off. We'll take it from here. You've done a lot of TV. You know, you've done the whole fame thing. Let's start listing them off, and let's start talking about the experiences. Well, and maybe before we do that, at what point did you transition into comedy? Let's start with that, and maybe how you met Geri Jewell.
I was on a lot of drugs, didn't know any better.
Okay. So you got wasted. That's the first step to thriving. No.
I was at a Media Access Awards dinner, and I was talking with Michael Landon. And he said, "Oh, you have to meet Geri Jewell. I guess once you're a Crip, you meet all the Crips. That's all there is to it. You might as well call me the Queen of the Crips." And so I went up to Geri and I said, "Hi, Geri, I'm Kathy Buckley, blah, 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 blah," and we just connected. But she thought she knew me from someplace else. She never met me before. And which is common when you meet a lot of people, white folks start looking alike. And so she said, "Let's get together for lunch." I said, "Let's get together for lunch. Come to my apartment." Now, I knew nothing about CP. I didn't know how it happens, what it is. And I didn't bother to ask, but she came to my apartment. And I made lunch, and I looked at her and I said, "Where would you like to eat, at the table or the couch?" I wanted her to be comfortable. She said the table. So we're sitting at the table, and she goes to eat her food, and she has an involuntary movement. And the food on her spoon flew across the room and landed on the couch. So I didn't know what to do. So I got up, I made another plate. I put it by the couch, and I looked at her and I said, "Look, you eat whatever the hell you want to eat." And so we laughed, and she told me so many of her secrets in that day. It was like she was so comfortable with me. And she told me a lot. And I just kept it to myself. I didn't, so I didn't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden, I'm not hearing from her anymore. So I called her up and I said, "Hey, Geri, what's going on?" So we got together and she said, "Look, I got to be honest with you. I'm a little nervous." And I said, "What's that, honey?" And she says, "Wait, I don't know you. And I told you a lot of private things. And I don't know if you're like from Inquiring Minds Want to Know or from," she got nervous, because, she's in her career. I could have blackmailed her, but she didn't have any money. So why bother? And so, but she was nervous. And I reassured her to Geri, nothing. I got to be honest with you. I don't remember what the hell you said that day. My batteries were dead in my hearing aids. Don't worry about it. And we became good friends. And then she became my patient. I was a massage exercise therapist. And I had asked her about the CP because I didn't understand it. And she explained it all to me. And I was okay with it once I understood. And she keeps having these involuntary movements while she's on my table. So I basically had to sit on her butt to work on her back to keep her still. And we just started having this great relationship. Well, as a masseuse, 3 of my clients came to me and said, "You should be a stand-up comic." And I have a belief system that when something comes to me 3 times, the Holy Spirit is guiding me. But I knew nothing about comedy. And the comedy contest was called Stand-Up Comic Take a Stand. And it was to help raise money for children with cerebral palsy. Well, in my naive mind, I actually believed that if I could raise enough money that we can fix Geri so she wouldn't move so much on my table. And that was I wanted to help Geri. That was my naive thinking. And so I knew nothing about comedy. And so I went to the comedy clubs. Deaf humor and hearing humor are very different. Very different. In a deaf world, in sign language, they give you the punchline first, and then they give you the lead up, which means it's not funny to hearing people. So I went to the comedy club, but everybody had the mic in front of their lips, so I couldn't lip read them. And I was getting frustrated. And I took everything literally. You know, one guy said, wow, what's with the dot on the forehead? What's that for? Target practice? I go, that's not funny. They need that dot. You know, and I would get upset. And I went home and I rented VHS, people. That's how old I am, okay, people? VHS, they were not closed caption. Robin Williams had the fastest lips I've ever seen in my life. And Whoopi Goldberg's lip barely moved. And I sat in front of a TV crying, going, why am I trying to do something that's impossible for me? So I talked to Geri, and Geri came up with some ideas for me, and we worked on it together for the contest. And I was so scared. I was a nervous wreck. Geri gave me this handpiece, this headband with a big hand behind the ear. And the joke was, you would think with today's technology, they could come out with a hearing aid that's just a little less obvious than this. And so that was my beginning joke. So I got up in front of 200 people in a club for that contest. I knew nothing about comedy. I mean, I did go to a couple of classes, and I was a nervous wreck. And you know what I was nervous about? I wouldn't hear them call my name on stage. I was pacing back and forth. I drove the producer. Did they call me yet? Did they call me yet? I drove this man crazy. They called my name, and I walked through the audience to get to the stage, and something happened. It was like somebody just ripped off this blanket of fear. And I went up on stage. I had 3 minutes. I couldn't hear the laughter. I could feel the vibration from the stage. And I played off people's faces that I could see. And if I saw a face I didn't like, I'd move on to another face. And so I ended up winning that night. I ended up winning. And I never knew the slang. People came up, you brought the house down. I didn't touch anything. You killed. Oh, crap, who? And then, I mean, this is a very vicious business. What am I doing here, you know? And then they said, you have to go to the semifinals. To be honest with you, at that time, I didn't know what semifinals meant. So I had to come up with another 3 minutes of comedy. And I'm like, no, I won tonight. Get the money and give it to the people with CP. That was my mission. I was just going to do it and get it over with. Well, I went to the semifinals, and I ended up placing in the finals, and I ended up being fourth out of 80 comedians that were in the business from 3 to 10 years, and I was only pushing around with it for 2 weeks. So there's no saying, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Well, years went by. Years later, I found out that Geri was at the United Cerebral Palsy Foundation. She was in the office when they were looking at all the headshots. Now, in order to get in this contest, you had to send a headshot and write why you wanted to be in the contest. I didn't have a headshot. So I gave them a Polaroid shot, and I don't write well. But I wrote, I gave it to them. And they said, if you didn't get anything by April 14th, you were not in the contest. I'll be honest with you, I did not want to be in this contest. I was scared. April 14th came. There was no letter. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to do it. At least I said I would. So you guys dared me. I said I would. They didn't want me. April 17th, a letter arrives. Oh, shit. And I did the contest. Well, what I found out was Geri was in the office, and she saw all the head sheets on the floor with people's bios and stuff like that. So she sat at the desk and she looked over. My Polaroid is looking up at her from the trash can. They had thrown my picture away in my letter. Geri reached in and she pulled it out and she said, Randy, why is this and not you, Randy, another Randy. She said, why is this in the trash can? And he goes, she didn't even have a headshot. Did you see what she wrote? She can't even write. And Geri said, well, isn't this about giving people chances? She got me into the contest. I never knew until years later. So she got me in. That son of a gun got me into this business. I didn't ask for it. I was happy filling up everybody's bodies as a masseuse. And that, so she got me into the business because it's just ironic. She never told me. I found out later from Randy, and then Geri had to confess. And so my life began on a journey that I couldn't even have dreamed. So what ends up happening, I'm doing stand-up comedy. We're being the first of something, first hearing-impaired comedian, being on all kinds of HBO and all this stuff. Mothers were calling me up. My child deaf, what can I do for him? I said, shoot him, he's no good. I know what to say to these people. What am I supposed to say? Well, now, you got the voice card in the deck. No, there wasn't enough resources out there for parents to figure out what's the best way to give my kid a connection in communication. So I started doing advocacy work for parents with children with challenging. Well, Geri was doing this thing called Milt Wright and Associate, and it was about the ADA law. And it was a book called, oh crap, I forgot the name of the book. But it was about the ADA law. And the book was this thick. I mean, it was big. And Geri was going around, and what the job was to teach corporations to hire people with disabilities. And so Geri said, why don't you do this too? I go, haven't you gotten me into enough crap already? But it was more money at speaking. And I said, all right. So they gave me the book. I have a fourth grade reading level. I wasn't comprehending this book. I didn't know what I was going to do. They had a pie chart. The only thing I like about it was that little red laser pen. You know, you just beam it all over the place. And it's supposed to point to the pie, and it's divided in all these percentages. And all I'm thinking is apple, peach, cherry, what is it? You know, and so I would be in front of the audience at a corporation, and I would swear like a truck driver. I was nervous. I was scared. I don't know what I'm talking about. Why am I here? It was great when I did the comedy, but when it came to how do I help you to get you to hire somebody with a disability, I really didn't know what to do. So they got some complaints. Gee, I wonder why. So Milt, the guy in charge, said, look, we're getting quite a few complaints. He goes, you're swearing too much. Like, but those are the words I can enunciate without my speech impediment, you know. And he said, I'll give you one more shot. I said, all right. So I go in there. I did the comedy. Everybody's happy. I look at the pie chart. I look at the book. It's not who I am. I'm not capable to teach you from this book. But who knows better about living with a disability, whether it was from cancer or being in a wheelchair or being deaf, whatever it may be? Who knows better about the labels and the limitations that people put on you than the person who lived it? So I started sharing my truth, my story. And then I started sharing people who I have in my life with challenges and what they do and the possibility and all of that. And I started showing them it's not about the disability, it's about the ability, it's about the spirit and the person. You know, everybody had their journey. Respect it. And I started being the speaker that just kept going from one place to another. And again, it's Geri's fault. And so I went ahead and I just started speaking at corporations and stuff. And then one day I was working at Oceanside. There was a comedy club in Oceanside. And my show wasn't starting on time. I'm very anal about the clock. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. what's going on? How come the show's not starting? Well, this guy, Tony Robbins, is coming in. It's his birthday. And I'm like, who's Tony Robbins? I don't know anybody by names. And so 15 after 8, what's going on? There are people here. It's not fair to make other people wait for somebody else. I was getting impatient. About 20, 25 after, Tony comes in with like 30 people. They sit down. I start doing my comedy. I'm ragging this man. Big motivational speaker, because I didn't even know he was a motivational speaker. The club owner told me. Big motivational speaker. You don't even know what time it is that you could get your ass here on time, you know? And apparently that is an issue with him, but I didn't know that. So his group of people was just cracking up. And so I went on about Ruth in the wheelchair, and I just went on about my story. I finished. But when I saw him, I realized who he was. I saw a man with compassion to want to make people have a better choice of life. So when I got out of the theater, out of the club, he was out in the parking lot with a few of his friends talking. And I thought, they're going to beat me up. And my car is right behind. Yeah, you know. No, he's much taller than me.
He's 6'6", I think.
Yeah, he's a big guy. And I went up to him and I just said, hey, I just want to say thank you for making a difference in people's lives, to take time out of your life to see that people have a better life. He goes, look, I'm going to be doing a thing in San Diego. Would you come and do your comedy? And then after you're done with your comedy, would you let me come up and ask you questions about your disability? I said, what, my flat chest? No, your hearing loss. I go, oh, okay.
Oh, that disability.
And so I went there. I did a half-hour stand-up. Tony's in the back with Peter Gruber from Sony, and he's in the back there. I'm talking to about, I don't know, maybe 2,000 people in that room. And I yell to the back of the room and go, hey, Tony, did you want to come up and ask me questions, or do you want me to continue? Well, he said to continue. I'm looking at the audience. I go, I just did a half-hour of death joke, and the man is talking to me from the back of the room. What the hell's the matter with this guy? And so I sitting there, and I continue with sharing my story. Well, when Tony came up on stage, he was completely speechless. He didn't know that was going to happen. He didn't know about the Jeep. He didn't know. He was speechless. And I looked at the audience. I said, I, Kathy Buckley, on this day, made Tony Robbins speechless. Please mark that somewhere. And so I've been his life mastery speaker for 30 years. And then I've also done global youth leadership. And that, so.
Wow.
Very cool.
Isn't it fun? And you never know where life is going to take you.
Yeah.
But you got to be open to it.
Yeah.
I don't believe that anybody is up here. I believe we're all equal. Once you put somebody above you, you've just limited your own self. We all put our pants on the same way. Well, I don't know. I'm a little weird about pants. But we all eat. We all have needs. We all have what, you know. But once you make somebody up here, I mean, I don't care what your job is. I don't care. As long as you're a good person, that's all that matters to me.
Exactly. Well, and he has his own story, you know, being a janitor, being homeless,
Oh, yeah.
you know, weighing like 500 pounds or something like that.
Yeah, he was heavy at one time.
Yeah. But that's what makes him great, and that's what makes you great. That's what makes us great. Like
I never weighed 500 pounds, honey.
Like sharing the story.
Yeah.
Sharing the story. Like,
Because what it is, when you go through challenges in life, I don't know, maybe that's how you gather compassion. Maybe that's how you gather empathy. Maybe that's how you say, I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. I don't want people to wait till they have cancer or get run over by a Jeep or something before they wake up. I want to shake you now. I want to wake you up now. This gift called life You know, yes, some people are in wheelchairs. I don't have empathy for people in wheelchairs or uses crutches or have glasses or whatever it is, because everybody knows how to handle the situation. I'm never going to go, oh, one of my favorite things, Toby Forrest, he's a really good friend of ours, and he's brilliant. He's a quadriplegic. He's a rock star singer. He's an actor. He's a psychotherapist. He's an amazing individual. And I never forget this one woman go, wow, he's a good-looking guy. It's a shame he's in a wheelchair. And I said, why? Only ugly people are allowed to be in wheelchairs? What the heck kind of a statement is that? You know, but look at yesteryears, we didn't have the accessibility we have today. We still need more. But people like Geri, myself, and other people who fight for these rights for other people, yeah, we're working on it. With time, things continue to progress.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I got on my soapbox.
Well, no, go ahead.
It's all good. This is all good.
Yeah. But I didn't realize it was Geri that talked you into this whole
I know.
thing.
She's been saying it, but
yeah.
What, she kept saying it?
You kept saying it.
Yeah, no. Geri's I just wish she could walk straight. Oh my God, we have so much fun together when we're together.
She is really fun to just hang out with. Go to the restaurant. I got to be careful what I say about Geri because some of it is so funny, but I don't know what I can get away with saying. You know what I mean?
Oh, Geri and I have the great sense of humor about ourselves together. Yeah. I mean, she cracks me up. I mean,
she's hilarious.
I mean, but she's smart.
Oh, she's smart as heck.
She's really smart. She takes in information. I've always been envious of that because she can keep learning and gathering and storing information. But together, we are a couple of idiots.
Well, Geri has an ability to get a read on people like I've never seen. She's really good at reading people. And it's interesting that you met her. And my perception is she got a read on you, that you had a talent you didn't even realize you had. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I never even thought of it like that. I was just thinking because she was my patient. My focus was to help raise money for the kids with CP.
Right.
And I ended up with a career. And I had no idea that this was going to be a career for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Well, you were on Johnny Carson. You were on the Today Show.
Jay Leno.
The Today Show, but you were also on the Tonight Show. I've never been there. You were on, there's so much here. Good Morning America, CBS This Morning, Entertainment Tonight. I've been on that one. Extra, Inside Edition, Turner Entertainment Report, CNN show. Golly, Geraldo, what was he like? Geraldo.
Yeah.
And then Touched by an Angel, that was a big show.
Yeah, that was more like Punched by an Angel.
Why do you say that?
It was a wonderful experience. It's one of my favorites. The hard part was I already have booking in San Francisco and New York, and they were wonderful to work around my schedule. The hard part was Bert Pearl wrote that as me as a deaf speak person, as voice. And when the producer got a hold of it, she wanted it to be our signing. Well, I got that notice the night before I had to leave Hawaii because I was in Hawaii with Tony. I got that notice about the signing and I just started crying because I'm not fluent in signing. I want people to know about deaf voice, spoken language, and I was hurt. And there was no way I can perform what they would want. So when I got into Utah and went right to the director and stuff, and I said, look, I'm sorry, I can't do this for you. And the producer, I said, you're going to have to call Marley Matlin. And I said, it was written for me, but I'm not fluent in signing, and I will not make your show look good. So they let me rewrite it back to a voice with some signing. And I was okay with that. But I did the show, but I was there for 2 days, and then I had to fly to New York to do a job. And then I came back to Utah, and then I had to fly to San Francisco to do the job, and I came back to Utah. But while I was in Utah, it was awesome. And the director, the wardrobe person said, well, what do you think this character would wear? I go, that's not my job. It's your job. Get creative. So she gives me these clothes. I go, damn, this is ugly. But I don't care. The hairdresser goes, how do you think she would wear her hair? I go, you're the hairdresser, do your thing. I did not want her to be a diva. I didn't want to say, well, I want this, and this, and this. It's a character you're playing. And so she had my hair in a ponytail, and I'm going, damn, I've never done that before. And so it was just a wonderful experience because, one, there's a lot of food. I think I gained 20 pounds just from flying back and forth. But it was, you're in the moment. You're playing a character. And Rami, how you say her name? Romy was really sweet. She goes, you have to play with the camera. So I go up to the camera. Hi, good. How am I supposed to do with the camera? And so she was trying to teach me something because I've never done acting on television. And so she was a doll, a complete doll. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I wish I could have more. But when I finished that, I came home with the worst sinus infection that from all the flying back and forth and different temperatures and everything. But I enjoyed it. My dream was always to be a part of a sitcom. I did not plan on doing stand-up. I did not plan on being a motivational speaker or an advocate. I just wanted to be a part of a sitcom. But God has his own plans, and I like to think I'm planting seeds in other people's lives with the hope that they would make it blossom.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's just so interesting because Geri knew at an early age that she was cut out for comedy.
Wow.
She knew that, I think, back in high school, if not, at a very early age. And that's what she was going to do. And she went and auditioned, I think, at the comedy club. I think it was up on Sunset Boulevard or
Comedy Store.
Yeah, the Comedy Store is, where she started. And then she was an instant hit. And but it was kind of like nobody who knew her was terribly surprised. You know what I mean? Including her, I think. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but that was my sense. Here, you're doing your therapeutic massage. You've got, interesting clients, just being yourself, and they recognize this gift in you. And you said, oh, what the heck? I'll give it. And whoa, shoot, I won. And it just goes up and up. And then you're doing, I've watched some YouTube videos where you're talking to just gigantic audiences and cracking them up. I mean, that takes some guts. I mean, really.
Courage. Being able to, laugh at your story and laugh at your own life experience.
Well, that and just make people laugh, period. I mean, a big, huge crowd of thousands of people, and I'm going to make you laugh.
That's a gift.
Yeah.
Well, that's the weird thing about me. I'm not going to make you laugh.
What are you going to do?
I am ever so grateful when I see people in a room that I'm going to perform for, that they're taking time out of their day to listen to me. It's like, wow. But I go up there to share. And I find that when you share, it becomes a connection. People go, oh my God, how did you get your timing down? I wasn't watching the clock. I don't know what timing is. But it's called communicating. You talk, they respond, and come back and go to your next thing. But I don't go up there with the expectation that they have to laugh at what I say. I go up there with an opportunity to take whatever issues they have going on in their lives in that moment, to have it disappear while you're with me. I would not point at anybody in the audience, say, oh my God, what's with the hat? I don't know what that person's going through in that moment. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they just lost somebody or lost a job. These are people who are paid money to come and see you. And then they have to pay for 2 drinks minimum. What's wrong with these people? But these are people that you want to be there for them. You're not there for yourself.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I've seen comedians up, and it can be, you don't know who's going to walk out on stage, but there are comedians that come out and they get cheap laughs off the expense of people in the audience. It's not cool. and that's cheap humor. It's an easy laugh, but you know, there's casualties in the process.
Yeah.
It sounds like your approach is a completely different approach where you're there to be authentic, which in and of itself can be you either laugh or cry, and people are laughing. And you're there to build people up, and you have obvious, enormous empathy for everybody around you. Realizing
you don't know what anybody's going through.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be doing now. Whatever you do, don't point to anybody around April 15th, because that's tax season. Everybody's pissed off.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
You know. But no, I feel grateful that, well, I had a one-woman show in New York. It was called Don't Buck With Me. In New York, I had to clean it up and call it Hear This. But my favorite audience in the whole world, it was Hanukkah. And you ever heard of the expression, paper the house?
Paper the house?
Yeah, you paper the house, which means it's a holiday. So you let people in for almost nothing. Okay, so almost nothing. So that you can paper the house so that you have an audience to perform for.
Oh, I see.
So that they're filling the seat. And so my company manager, she was Black. And what I did while I was there, there's a place called MAD, Make a Difference. I was at the Lamb Theater, and it was for halfway house kids. I hired halfway house kids and trained them with my company manager to work in the theater, so that when I leave, they will have a resume of what they can do in the theater. So they learned a lot about theater and stuff like that. And I had 3 kids that just would not leave me alone. They were always in my dressing room. And one was Black, one was Filipino, and the other one was Mexican. And I loved them because they were all best friends, you know, and I loved that. So anyway, this night, paper the house. So my whole audience, I think she got them from Harlem. They were all Black people. One white man, John Matt Carter, the owner of Good Housekeeping magazine, was there. Now, when you do theater, you cannot break a wall. You're behind a wall. So when you do theater, you don't talk to your audience. You stay in character. If you do stand-up, you can. Well, I'm doing theater. So I'm on stage. Now, I grew up with a lot of Black friends. You take my friends to the movie, they talk to the screen. Oh, good Lord, don't you know that truck is behind you? And they start talking, and they talk at the thing. So I'm on stage, and I have 3 women in the center of my audience who kept talking at me like they were in a theater. Now, I can't take my hearing aids out to ignore them, because I'm on the stage alone. Where am I going to put them? I had no pockets. So I kept trying to ignore them yelling at me. Well, when I brought out the article of when I got ran over by the lifeguard Jeep, all of a sudden, oh, child, oh, Lord, that's just wrong. What more can you go through? And they're just going on. So I broke the wall. I said, you are not in a theater where you're watching a movie. You are not having popcorn and a Diet Coke. And everybody started laughing. And I said, now, let me do my show. Well, what I did, the rest of the show, I took the whole wall down. And I played with the audience throughout the rest of the show. John Matt Carter, because it was Hanukkah, I thought I didn't have to say Happy Hanukkah because everybody was Black in my audience. And so he came up to me after the show and he said, I've been to theater my whole life, but this has been the funnest in the moment thing I've ever seen in my life. And it made me feel good because I felt like, was I insulting anybody? And I was nervous. Well, at the time I had my book and I was signing autographs. I do not know how to say these names, let alone spell them. So I had my friend, the company manager, I said, do me a favor, get posted, give it to people before they come up to me and have them write down their name. Because I don't know how to spell Savannah, Kahana, or these names I couldn't say. And I was making fun of it, making fun with it all down the line. And we were just having the best time ever. And I settled home because this is what I'm familiar with. And so it was a the best time. I mean, there's so many incredible stories with the experience, but one of my other favorite, well, actually there was two. There was a cop that was on a horse that I was kind of developing a little crush on because I saw him every night at the theater. And so he was just really delightful. And then one day he got off the horse, and now I know why he's on the horse. He was a little guy. He was this tiny little guy. I mean, seriously, came up to my waist. And I'm going, nah, this is not crossfit away really fast. You know, but he was delightful. And so when my theater was over with, I was walking back to the apartment. I got to say, the thing I love about New York is the walking. Because you have to walk to someplace. It's not like just walking around a block. You're walking for a purpose. So when I got to the that last night when I finished my show, I'm walking back to the hotel room, and I was scared. I was scared because where do I go from here? What happens now? God, what am I supposed to do? I mean, you've taken me on this amazing journey. What happened? This is over with. Where do I go from here? Because I have no place in LA now to live. And then because I was renting, now I'm in New York, but I want to come back to LA. So I visualized this huge library in God's house, this huge library. And everybody has a book with a name on it. And I was looking for mine, and I pulled the book out, and I opened it. And I was reading the pages, and it said, Kathy's walking the city of New York, asking what happens next. So I flipped the page, and it was blank. And I thought, I am the writer of my life. I have to know what to do. And it gave me a sense of peace because I am responsible. Though God put me on this amazing journey that I could not create. And I got to be honest with you, if I didn't have met Geri, it wouldn't happen because it was the last thing on my mind. So you never know where life is going to take you. And I also believe that when we spend so much time planning our lives, you're missing your life. Because if you ever notice, when you plan something on Monday for Tuesday, 90% of the stuff that you planned on Monday for Tuesday didn't happen. Which means you missed the whole day of Monday worrying about what's going to happen on Tuesday. People need to get back into the moment. I understand planning things, especially when you have kids, but don't plan to the point where you miss an opportunity that might be in front of you because you're not paying attention. So that night when I got to the hotel room, I was totally content. And those 3 kids were in my hotel room. How the hell did you guys get in here? And so it was part of from the theater. They bought me flowers, they bought egg rolls. They didn't want me to leave. And I said, I want out of this city. It was awesome.
Well, you mentioned a book. Tell us about your book.
Oh, that was funny. I was doing motivational speaking with Susie Orman, and we were traveling. It was called the Power of Women Conference. And she said, you got to do a PBS special. I didn't even know what that was. This is what I love about my life. I don't know anything until it happens. And sometimes after it happens, I don't even know. I still don't know what happened. And so Susie and I became friends. God, I love her so much. But when we got together, we sounded like a couple of truck drivers together. I mean, it was fun. I love that woman. And the Power of Woman Conference. Do you guys know who, I don't know if I say her name, Benazir Bhutto, Prime Minister of Pakistan? She was a woman that was executed. Well, she was at this Power Room, and she had that long thing on, and she was drinking a lot of coffee, and she was making me nervous. She was making me nervous because all I could think about, she's going on stage in a few minutes, and she's got all this coffee on her. What does she have, a catheter in there under that dress? So I got nervous, and I went up to her, and I said, hey, what's with all the coffee? I said, you're going up in there a little bit. You know, you're going to be on stage for at least 45 minutes. You're not going to be able to pee. And I asked her, do you have something underneath that thing? And she's laughing. She goes, oh, me love the coffee. Coffee very good. Coffee very good. And I'm like, well, that's good, but it's, And so And she had security guards around them. They all had the earpiece on. I thought it was so nice. She had all deaf people around her, but it wasn't. It was security. So when she went on stage, the person who was wanting to go, do you know who that was? Yeah, some kind of coffee fiend. And she said, no.
Surrounded by deaf people.
I know. And so she goes, that's Benedar Bahuta. I can't say her name correctly, Benedar Bahuta. And she goes, you know that they want to kill her. And I said, what? She's your Prime Minister of Pakistan. They told me a little about her story. That's why she has all the security. Why don't you people tell me these things before I talk to people? And so when she got off the stage, she came up to me and she goes, I like you. You're very funny. And I said, I'm not happy about you right now. I said, I just found out people want to kill you. She goes, yes, in my country, yes. And I says, are these guys single? And she goes, you have lunch with me, yes? I said, I'm not having lunch with you. People want to kill you. I am not going to be in the way of a bullet. And she'd laugh. And I was really I was being funny about it to break the ice. And so they have a luncheon for all of us speakers. We had Carol Burnett, Suzanne Summers. We had really incredible people there. Debbie Field, the Fields cookie lady. And I'm still waiting for my cookie. But we had all these people, we were sitting there, and I'm sitting with Susie, who's sitting right next to me. And Benedar was on the other side, and Benedar was telling me her story, how her mother's taking care of her kids, her husband went to prison for her. And, everybody has a story. And I was fascinated. I go, does it not bother you that you don't get to raise your own kid? She goes, as long as I know my kids are safe. But she wanted this power for women in her country. And that's why they didn't want her as a prime minister. And so we had a lovely conversation. She touched my heart in a way and it wasn't really real to me because I didn't know where Pakistan was or anything. But Susie was sitting next to me. And Susie had this big white teeth. It's beautiful. But she's hard to lip read because she's right here and she's blinding me with her teeth. And she asked me, she goes, are you gay or straight? I didn't know what she was asking. I couldn't tell. What? Are you gay or straight? She had her teeth cleaned together. There's no way she's asking me this because nobody's ever asked me this. And so I looked at her assistant, Mary, who was sitting next to her, and I figured if she's one person away, I could lip read her better, right? I said, Mary, what's Susie saying? Well, across from us, we had these Bible belts from American Airlines sitting across. So I guess Susie was trying to keep it quiet. And so Mary goes, she's asking if you're gay or straight. And I said, oh, I thought she asked if I was gaining weight.
This is just an incredible journey that you didn't even aspire to or, put up a vision board and say, I want to, go speak with Tony Robbins for years. Nothing. No,
but you know what? People think it's a big deal. I don't. Yeah. I think it's a blessing. Yeah. If you're willing to put yourself in front of people all have their little boys and girls living inside of them.
Yeah.
You just got to get them to come out and play. I don't care what the job is.
Yeah.
Like you said, you would brag about what I've done. It's not a bragging thing because it's just a job. I
know that, but I would have to say it is a big deal. Your accomplishments, I think to anybody looking at this is going to say that's a big deal.
I think it's a gift.
Well, it's a gift. And, there's two big topics I still want to address.
Oh, no.
I know you want to leave.
I don't. I love being with you guys. I appreciate that you guys are doing this to help other people, and I'm glad to be proud to be a part of it.
Well, thank you. And we're so grateful that you're here. And that's one of the topics, I'm going to save it for last, is gratitude, because I've heard you use that word several times. But before we go there, you've expressed a lot of things that let me know, Tanya know, our audience know that you have faith in God.
Yes.
And I want to go there. I want to see how your faith has, what you have to say about it and how that's helped you, and talk about your faith.
Have you always had it? Have you always had it, or did it happen?
No, I was raised Catholic. How would you have that faith when you're raised Catholic?
Well, and before I, here's what I'm really asking, Kathy, is that a lot of people listening, I would have to say, what the heck? You grow up, you're born with this disability, which would shut a lot of people down. And then you're abused by your father. And then you are raped by a guy at 16. And then you try and commit suicide 5 times because you're so void of life that you just want to end it. And then you are kicked out of the house by your mom. You're not getting any, what every kid needs from your mom, your dad, or your 2 brothers, or the kids at school that are bullying you. And then on top of that, after being kicked out, you are on the beach just trying to enjoy a day in the sun, and some Yahoo lifeguard runs over you with a Jeep. So horrific. I mean, I heard about that story. That was just a gigantic story. And then, as if that's not enough, you get ovarian cancer?
It's all
cervical cancer. Okay. I mean, at this point, a lot of people would say, there is no God. How can there be a God who loves his creation or her creation, whatever, not trying to genderize deity, but a lot of people would just say there can't be a God at this point in their life. And yet you're sitting here today with a faith in God. I think that's just remarkable. And I just want to, in that context, just ask you point blank, what's that all about? I think it's fascinating.
I'm going to say it's my strength. It's my strength. When I look at my life and I'm like, I was alone. And everything, the cancer, the Jeep accident, I've not had any support. There were momentarily people that came into my life that kind of like, everybody contributes something in some way. But they were like that nurse who touched my forearm. I'm never going to forget her. But I think for me, when I died and I got that love, I realized I'm not alone. When I felt alone for so long, and when I saw that experience and got that love, I wanted to share it with everybody. It is so amazing. And it's not like, I always ask God, why can't I put this into words? And it's like, well, you have to kill everybody for 5 minutes and let them have the experience. And they tried that with the Kool-Aid and it didn't work. And
that is not the answer I was expecting.
But when you know you're not alone and you realize where your source of life comes from, you have an appreciation for it. When I look at my life in the past, with everything I've gone through, I always used to get mad. Why would God let that happen? Why would God let that happen? God's not making these things happen. These are choices that came into your life, experience that came into your life. What God did happen, which showed me a love, it showed me I'm not alone, but more importantly, it showed me the strength that I have within me about making choices as to who I'm going to be and what I'm going to live for. Mm-hmm. So as far as I'm concerned, God is my best friend. And I know he stays up there in heaven eating a bowl of popcorn, looking at me going, I know that's my kid, but even I don't know what that one's going to do next. He just doesn't know. But I wake up every morning. The first thing I say is, good morning, Jehovah, my Lord Jesus Christ, my amazing Holy Spirit. Yes, thank you for another day. And I start my day with the gratitude of feeling blessed. And so for me, my faith comes really from looking at my past going, wow, I was never alone. I was never alone. You know that always saying, the footprint where Jesus is carrying you through life? Well, they had a backpack with me in it. and they never let me touch the ground until they realized I was ready to take control of my life. And how can you not have gratitude and love? When I have all this love in me, it's natural that I want to give it out. It's not something you harbor. And I tell you, the thing that gives me that is contribution. The schools that I work with for No Limits for deaf children, giving these low-income families their child an opportunity to have spoken language so they can connect with their parents and connect with the world. You can't help but to feel good. Being on stage, to share my story, to see that people react, that, oh my God, I do have the right to choose. I got a letter from a woman who had 4 kids, and her husband just left her with 4 kids. She went to the library. Somehow or another, she picked up my book on tape. She sat in her car until it was done, and she didn't realize that she had the choice to be happy from the experience. People get caught up in their miseries. They don't stop to think about their choices. Set up your options before you make your choice. Take a look at everything and how it can go in your life. How do you see it going? But see, I've lived my life in faith. I trust that anything that comes my way is a gift given to me. And even if there's bad things happening, I know for a fact everything has a time limit. And if you notice, time goes by really fast. So you got to get in the moment, embrace the good stuff, because that too has a time limit. But when something bad happens, look for the solution. Don't give it life by complaining about it over and over again to the point where you have no control over what happened. So my faith is a sign of gratitude. I mean, I can't imagine had I not met Geri. I can't imagine the not doing what I do. I mean, I took a chance. I didn't plan it. Now, had I planned this life, it may have never happened because I would have done it on fear. But it all happened spontaneously. And I did everything for another reason, whether it was for the kids with CP, whether it was for Geri, whatever it may be. But everything I did wasn't about me having this fabulous career. I'm going to be great comedian, all of that stuff. No, it just took me on the journey, and I trust where he was taking me. Does that answer your question at all?
I think it not only answers it answers it really beautifully. It's just, you kind of hit it. I mean, it was authentic and it was organic. It wasn't, and there's nothing wrong with this, because I know very successful people that put up a vision board and they set goals, and I believe in that kind of stuff. I set goals, go to college, do this, do that. And I'm glad I did. But yours just seems like, what's so striking about your story, Kathy, is this is so organic. I can't think of a better word. It flowed. And also, I think the number one takeaway was that you had been through enough trauma that would have crushed 10 lifetimes. And yet that near-death experience where you got a glimpse of heaven and of God was a really profoundly energizing, I can't think of a better word, experience, which is identical to the other 2 people I've met that have had them. And then that led me to read this book.
What got me when you were describing your death experience is how you saw the light, you saw a blue light, and you saw the cloud, you saw a hand. You depicted that so beautifully. And so every time you talk about, your faith, it's like I picture this hand. Because it's like there is a hand. Yours is meeting his, or whoever your higher power is, whoever your God, your Lord, whomever that is. But it's like we're not alone. And I know what it's like to not have God in my life. I know it. And that was a really, really dark place. That was in, my gosh, September of 2000, after my best friend died. I know exactly where I was, Greenfield and Grand Valley Parkway. And my mom was like, you need to go to church. You need to go pray. You need to go talk to his parents. Because nothing is more lonely and dark than not having God on some level.
For me it is. I mean, I know that life, I felt like Satan was controlling it for so long. Like, I don't know what you want to call it, but the negativity that I bought into it for so many years. Mm-hmm. And the wake up call when I died was it's just a gift. I mean, it's just a gift of knowing that we're not alone, and yet we feel alone. And there's no better love than that love, for me, at least. I just, how do you say thank you for the experience?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and what's interesting is that faith and religion and spirituality, those are touchy subjects. And so I always try to approach them carefully because, not everybody has had a good religious experience. And I was watching, in fact, last night I was watching Remy, on Scientology. I'm having a senior moment. Well, anyway, it was on Scientology. Yeah. It will come to us.
Tom Cruise's.
Anyway.
Seriously, people, I don't know these two and where they're at right now.
Well,
but if we'd like to make a contribution to help for their mental health, that would be good. Thank you.
Leah Remney. Okay. So thank you for covering while I collected my memory there. But anyway, they had been through, a really toxic experience where they had been shunned by their families because they had left the Scientology church or Church from Scientology. I'm not sure how you say it. And they were working through, they were still processing the trauma. And I say that non-judgmentally because it sounds like they had been through a really tough experience. The point being is that that's not, in my mind, a valid reason to just throw it all away because there's something going on here. The fact that you go from raw chemicals to self-forming, self-replicating cells with DNA chains more complex than the space shuttle doesn't seem like a random accident to me. And so I think having God in the mix of trauma recovery, however you want to address that, I know how they address it in AA. They're very global and however you want to interpret that, but it's essential, at least in that program, to have a belief in a power higher than your own. So anyway, I really am grateful that you shared your experience because it's very rich. And so if you don't mind me asking, are you still Catholic or are you?
Hey, no.
Okay.
No, I don't. But I think religion is a business.
Okay.
When I was growing up Catholic, I didn't know what was going on in the church. I couldn't hear. I just watched the oldest person and follow them. Stand up. Okay, here we go. Sit down. All right, kneel. Ah, crap. I missed the kneel part. And the mom used to send me in that booth for confession. I had no idea what that was about. I thought God was going to come and shoot me because my mother had said I had sins and I didn't know what sins were.
Yeah.
And I just wanted that spiritual peanut butter that they put in your mouth, that little host. But because that just stuck to the roof of your mouth. But as far as religion, I think it's man-made. Mm-hmm. Okay. I love when people put personal stories with themselves with God. I think because of my experience, I became more, I don't want to say spiritual, just grateful of faith. I've gone into churches and they have these rules, and I don't believe that God is a God-fearing God. I think he's a loving God. I think he has a great sense of humor. I think he's protective. And he's my father, as far as I'm concerned. And I've always, when I read the Bible, my mentor was Jesus, to love unconditionally. No matter how bad, no matter how poor, no matter how that person is, mm-hmm. You don't judge them for the journey that they're on. If you can help them lift from that journey that may be negative, then that's a great way to do it. Mm-hmm. But there's just something like when washing the foot of a prostitute or, whatever he's doing. I just love the fact that he loved unconditionally. And I think we should all learn to respect and accept each other's differences and learn from our differences instead of judging it and labeling it. Mm-hmm. When I first came to California, I didn't know there were so many different kinds of people because I came from a small town in Wycliffe, Ohio. We just had all Caucasians and Black, But we did have Italians, and they were Orthodox Jews, but everybody was in separate blocks. No, but it wasn't mixed. They would have, like if you walk down the street and you smell barbecue, oh, that's the black neighborhood. You know, if you smell pasta, the Italians. You know, you can smell everybody's neighbors, their food. So I want to, when I came to California and I saw all these different kinds of ethnics and people's religions and their beliefs, I started making friends with people of differences. I wanted to be invited to their house. I wanted to know the food they eat. I wanted to know their belief system. I wanted to know all about their culture. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. And then I never forget this one house near Sony. I went to his house. It's a family, all Indian, and the mother made a fabulous meal. I never had curry before. I never had all this stuff. And we started talking about my God. And I said, so what's your belief system? So we have over 200 gods. And I said, well, could I take the food to go? And they said, why? Where are you going? I go, honey, I have one God and I can't have enough time to pray to him and tell him how grateful I am. If you got 200 God, I'm interrupting. But
well, and you know, and all this is to say that there's one thing I just want to make clear, because we're not really a religious program per se.
No.
But I just want to say that number one, I know Catholics who are wonderful people, and I'm envious. You know, for some people it's a good experience, and for some people it's not. But we certainly respect that. I just had a buddy invite me up to Mariners Church. I loved it. I thought it was great. You know, I heard another comment the other day that religious is outward and spirituality is inward. I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe, I don't know. But I'm of the belief that if lighting candles or burning sage or going to your temple brings you closer to God, do it. But
I think it's a great way to create a community for people, a safe place for them to all believe in one thing.
Yeah.
And so it is a great thing for that.
Yeah. And the vibe I got, I'm not trying to promote any particular thing here, but the, you know, going up to Mariners, everybody seemed to be made welcome there. And I thought that was cool. And there was a wonderful community there. And the friend that I went to was a buddy from high school that the last place you would ever think he'd end up in his church. We'll just leave it at that. So, but wonderful guy in the end. No, I'm kidding around, of course. But my point is that in trauma recovery, finding a power greater than yourself seems to be a common denominator that I hear more and more often. Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. I think that's what we're all saying. Yeah.
Well, it is. We all need something to hold on to. And I just, my choice is what I saw when I died. And so, of course, I'm going to, you know, that's my belief.
No, I'm with you 100%. You know, and once I volunteer at the friendship shelter, the homeless shelter down the street. And I gave, while they allowed me to, well, the state of California took over. And anyway, it's a long, dramatic story. But for years, I volunteered teaching life skills like goal setting, time management. You know, we could give that to Tony Robbins. And I taught these life skills to the homeless people, which was full of men and women. Anyways, one day I was there on a Sunday morning to give my class. I got there a little early, and this guy came in. I said, "Hey, how's your day going?" And he goes, "Good. I went to church." And I said, "Oh, well, that's great." And there's 15 churches in Laguna Beach, or maybe more. And I said, "If you don't mind me asking, where'd you go?" And he goes, "I went to Saddleback with, you know, Rick Warren." And I'd never been there at that time. And I said, "Really? Isn't that like 45 minutes away?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, how'd you get there?" And he goes, "They send a van around." And my head exploded, because Saddleback sends vans to pick up homeless people who have nothing to contribute, no monetary benefit, to come up to Saddleback, enjoy a service, get a cup of coffee, grab some groceries, and no charge.
That's awesome.
Isn't that awesome?
No, that's awesome.
We all do what works for us, but I want to give a shout out, because there are good, healthy religions that at the core are doing really great things.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you're right. The monastery up in the canyon, I go up there to buy their honey because they have beehives up there, and they only let you buy I think 1 jar at a time. So I go, I buy it, I drive around the parking lot, come back and buy another, stock up, kind of cheap.
Coming up with a wig and another.
I'm beating the system. These Hindus aren't going to stop me. But anyway, some people address this whole thing in an inward spiritual way, and other people find a community that is healthy. That being said, there's obviously charlatans out there that, kind of monetize the whole thing. So, we got to kind of navigate that.
Yeah. What fills your heart? What makes you?
Yeah.
But I tell you, the one thing that if anybody is depressed, because depression is nothing more than self-focus on some things, not all. Some of it is definitely physical. But the one thing that gets you out of depression is contribution, because it gets to see you in a good light, yourself in a good light when you're giving to someone else.
Yeah, amen to that. So I'm happy to go wherever you want, but the last big topic I have on my mind is, and thank you for being so generous with your time, because I know this
I'm charging you. You're getting a bill.
Well, and that's fine, because I'll give it to Mel down at the end of the table. The gratitude, because it seems like I'll just explain it how, with my little bit of trauma, how it works, but I think you're going to have more to say, and that is, I'm not grateful that I was born with a congenital heart defect. It really kind of sucks. And I'm not grateful for what I went through. I'm grateful but looking back, I am grateful for certain things. I had parents that, navigated and found the best doctors in the country. I'm grateful that they, took this all seriously and their responsibilities seriously. I'm glad my dad worked overtime to pay for this surgery. And so I'm not grateful for it per se, but I'm grateful for the lessons that I learned from it. And I'm grateful that maybe, being a tall, white, straight jerk from Orange County, I got a little bit of empathy and learned a little bit of, empathy from that whole thing. So there are things to be grateful for. And the last chapter of the book, Post-Traumatic Thriving, is, of all things, it's on gratitude. So I just want to ask you about, you've covered an awful lot of this, but what more would you like to say on that topic of gratitude?
I would say, for me, it's the appreciation of now being able to see what's in front of me instead of being caught up in this world. Like I said earlier about the hummingbird and the lizards and the bobcat, there's just something incredibly wonderful to be in the moment. And I'm in the moment now more. I'm not caught up in the rat race anymore. I'm not like, I remember I went to church with my mom, and we came out, and I'm like, oh, Mom is so religious. She knows all the words to the songs. This is where she's comfortable and she feels safe. And so we come out of the church, and she goes, oh, my God, that's Ed. I hate that guy. He's a son of a... I'm like, I turn around, I look at the church door, and I said, didn't we just come out of church? What happened here? Did you not learn anything in there? Because you just go through the routine, but you can't help but to laugh at it. But my gratitude is to be able to forgive, to love unconditionally with no expectations, because I found out expectation is nothing more than setting yourself up for disappointment. To be able to laugh at the dumbest things. My heart is full with my kids in my neighborhood and my kids at the school. There's something about the responsibility of giving a child a childhood to create memories for them. I'm grateful to be able to have that persona, to be able to do that. I get on the floor, I roll on the floor with them. I'm an old lady now. Shouldn't be doing that, but I don't care. Because kids put you in the moment because it's where they live. So I think for me, my gratitude is the way I look at life now. I'm just grateful. I'm not living in a world of, I'm a victim of society. I just don't, I have to admit, this past couple of years with everybody wearing a mask, It's been a very hard time for me. I turned into my 5-year-old kid because I couldn't lip read anybody. And I felt so left out of society all over again. So I had to ask my question, what do you want to do? I went to the bank one time, the guy behind the window, and he had a mask on. And I said, he kept asking me something, but I couldn't figure out. So I told him, I said, look, I'm deaf. I don't know what you're saying. Can you just remove your mask so I can see your lip? No, we can't do that. And can you write down what you're asking me? Because I feel bad. And I'm starting to get frustrated because that little girl was like, I want to connect. I want to communicate. And he's like, no, and I just let it out. The Italian came out of me. You are behind a bulletproof glass. What the hell do you think you're going to catch from me? You know? And I was just like, attack. And so the supervisor come back, what's the problem? I told her, I said, I'm deaf. And I just asked him so I could see his lips when he asked the question. Now, I respect the fact that the boss probably said, keep your mask on at all time. But I was hoping somebody would make an exception for me, you know? The supervisor took his mask off of him. And I said, this is me. Now I know why you wear the mask. I wouldn't have taken it off either.
That's why everyone's always asking me to put my mask back on. That's awesome.
But it was a challenging. But my gratitude is that I can find the humor in just about everything. Some things I can't, but I try to find the positive in something, no matter how bad it is. I'm one of those idiots that has a empathy for people that are sick in the head and do stupid crimes, because I would not want that to be my life. Like I wouldn't want my mom is the most negative person in the world. And to be able to take all of her labels off of her and see what her story is, I realized my mom has anxiety, paranoia disorder. She has all these things that nobody talked about years ago. So she has a reason for her behavior. She has a reason for her ignorance. She has a reason for the choices that she makes. And in order for me to have a relationship with my mother, I had to change my way of looking at her and accepting her for who she is and not how she behaves. And so right now, every month, back to Ohio, taking care of mama, you know. So my gratitude is that God gave me a heart to make this award for me, not about me, but about everybody around me. And I get to have the blessing and the reward of feeling love for myself by giving to others. Does that make sense?
Completely.
And I'm thinking, in parallel to Geri Jewell.
Yeah, I never liked her.
What's that?
I never liked her. I'm sorry, but I'm my mother.
Geri's the exception. Well, I'm sticking up for Geri. She's my friend.
I think it's so cute that you actually believe you have friends, but that's nice.
She'd probably say the same thing.
She loves you.
And I love her. And I can't get away with this kind of humor. I have people say, I don't know when you're serious and I don't know when you're kidding. It's like every word that comes out of my mouth, 95% is a joke that nobody gets.
It's the delivery.
I'm just kidding around. Anyway, when you have a big heart, Geri has a big heart.
Yes,
and you have a big heart, like it or not. And these amazing things happen. And the thing about Geri for a minute is she's so inspiring. She's the first person to ever land a national sitcom.
Facts of Life.
As a disabled person. She's spoken at the White House 3 times. Yeah. I've driven by it 3 times, but
I've seen it.
Yeah.
And she wasn't there on January 6th, just so you guys know.
That's the official story. And but you with the huge media, the huge motivational speaking career, the huge stand-up comedy audiences that you draw, that's for people that have at some point you kind of wish, gee, I wish I had more trauma, but not quite.
Thank God, like whatever, knock on wood on that one. But
No,
that,
but
that has crossed my mind many times.
Well, but I mean, you got a pretty healthy dose having your sweet sister horribly murdered, where everybody knows who did it. I think I do. And yet you have inspired zillions of people. Your whole family has. You have. I'm just really grateful to be hanging out with some really, key people that have done just this amazing, great. It's inspiring to me, and I think it's inspiring to, huge numbers of people. So I want to just say speaking of gratitude, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really. And, I know everybody comes in and says this is the longest interview they've ever had. We do it on purpose because I think I've gotten your story bits and pieces here and there, but now I think I'm sure we could go on for days, but now I think we got a bigger sense of what the rollout of this whole thing really looks like.
Yeah.
I think.
Absolutely. No, you've been a great guest. Your story, I mean, honestly, how you didn't throw in the towel and say, I give up.
I have. I
know, but look
but
at
I
you.
picked it back up.
Yeah.
Look at you now. Though.
And no, you look at me.
Look,
I don't have to look at this.
You're giving love and joy and gratitude to the world. I mean,
But you know what? If you give it, you will receive it.
yeah.
And that's my biggest problem for me. I'm very hard on the receiving end. I've been alone my whole life, never had support. So I'm not used to when somebody gives me something, I don't know what to do with it sometimes.
Okay.
I try to.
I'm going to ask you a last question because the one good thing about these really long interviews is you're not going to have any traffic back into LA. So
Hey, you're taking me to dinner. You're feeding my
I'll
ass.
take you to dinner. We'd love to. Absolutely.
But no, I want to just say I was like, I don't want to go to Dana Point. Where's Dana Point? Is it on the map? Is it make this stuff up and I'm going to be lost or something?
Perfectly nice place.
And I know it's a beautiful place.
There's the ocean.
But I want the audience to know that I basically decided to do this because of all the great things that Randy has done for my friend Geri. But I really want to thank you guys because this is a platform with the hope that you never know who's going to get something out of a story. Mm-hmm. And that's the gift you guys are giving people, is an opportunity to look at their life in a different way, that maybe they can make that change. Maybe they can pick up the towel. Maybe they can move forward. Because you only got one chance of this incredible gift called life. And I'm telling you, it is a gift. This is not to be disrespected. This is not to be compared with somebody else. This is not for you to insult. This is for you to embrace, to love, honor, and respect. Got one shot of this gift. It's called life. May God bless you.
Wow. Bravo.
I'm just staying silent on that one. That was beautiful.
Yeah, at some point.
I've got tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
You touch my heart.
Yeah.
I didn't touch you. I'm just a vessel.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit touched you, not me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was nice.
I'll go with that for
yeah,
sure.
For sure.
Okay.
I made them speechless.
Well, let's go to dinner. I know just a great restaurant for sure. And believe me, by now there will be no one in there.
What time is it?
It's 8:00.
Are you kidding me?
No joke.
My whole life passed before me. I've been here for 5 hours.
You've been here a long time.
5 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my God, did I miss a birthday?
Take that, Today Show. In your 4.5 minute interviews.
2.5 minutes if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Oh,
but,
wow.
You know, it philosophically, that's what this show is all about, is having wonderful guests, real people who've been through, just unthinkable stuff, not once or twice, but several times. I do have one last question, if you'll forgive me. And that question is, for some reason, I had a friend, a very close, good friend, who's very successful, tell me just about 2 weeks ago that he was thinking about suicide. And first of all, the thought that went through my mind is, wow, I'm out of my league here. And number one, and number two, you know, he's a very happy, jovial, public figure kind of guy. The last person you would think would have that on his mind. And I also thought, wow, that's really a privilege that he would share that with me. And I listened to a lot of what you said in your book, Tanya, on the topic, and I didn't panic. And I think I did kind of the right thing. And I just sat and listened. I didn't try and fix him. I didn't start screaming at him, don't do it. I just listened to what was on his mind, which is, I think, what he really needed.
Sure.
But here's my question for you, Kathy. I promise it'll be the last question, then I'll let you get dessert on top of dinner. No, but here's my question. You tried to commit suicide 5 times as a high school girl, given the abuse and all the stuff. What would you say to that little girl today?
For one, I've already told her I'm sorry that I disrespected her. It's hard because when you're in that state of mind, you are totally void. You're just void. You're emptied out. You poured yourself out. When I hear you talk about your friend, it sounded like he hadn't given himself his refill. He doesn't know he didn't know how to fill himself up to the point where he just wants to quit. People need to know how to fill themselves up. And people always ask, if you could change anything in your life, what would it be? I wouldn't change anything. But the one thing I would have wanted was information, knowledge, understanding. I wish people would have educated me about life. Just about, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a college. I didn't know a lot of stuff because when you don't hear, you don't get information. And people can hear it on TV. Well, when I was growing up, there was no captioning. So I didn't enjoy the TV. I don't enjoy the radio. So I don't have that ability. So for that little girl, I'd say, I'm sorry. I wasn't informed. I'm grateful that you were a failure at these things. That when I said I'm not ready when I died, I'm so grateful that I made the choice to stay. I'm so grateful that I got to see what life is supposed to be about. It's not about riches. It's not about the money. It's not about the house or the car or the clothes. We spend so much time trying to be like everybody else or up to Joneses one more time and stuff like that. It's really, truly about where you share your heart, where you're going to put it, who you're going to share it with. This is the most valuable thing you'll ever have in your life, is your heart. That's your soul. People connect through souls and spirits. And so that's what you want to be strong about. So I'm sorry my young girl had those feelings. But I'm also grateful she wasn't smart enough to do it all the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So are we.
Yeah.
Well, the greatest gift we have is time, and thanks for sharing so much time with us and with our audience.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Is it Melanie that I give the bill to?
Yes. She'll take care of it.
Invoice.
All right.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From everyone at Post-Traumatic Thriving, where we talk about the dive, the survive, the thrive.
The choice is yours.
It is.
Thanks for supporting our podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on your favorite social media. For books, merchandise, or to donate, visit CoreIQ.com. Post-Traumatic Thriving is produced by CoreIQ, a nonprofit with a mission to teach the life skills we all need that are not taught in school. CoreIQ and the Post-Traumatic Thriving podcast are for informational purposes only and do not provide medical or mental health advice. Always consult with your licensed medical and mental health care providers.